Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about before and after. I'm before, and Christopher's after. A few weeks ago, we talked about the things that were going to be coming up in Koha 2411 that we were excited about, and today we'll talk about some of the things that, well, I'm before, I'm still on 2405, and Christopher is after, he's on 2411. So he's going to talk about some of the things that he's encountered since they upgraded earlier this week. Okay, so like I said, well, first off, I'm George Williams. I'm the Next Search Catalog Coordinator at Northeast Kansas Library System.
I'm Christopher Brennan with the Cooperative Information Network, which will soon be, we've already purchased our domain name, the Inland Northwest Libraries.
Cool.
And I'm with the Coeur d'Alene Public Library.
INLS. Okay, I like that. My father used to work for the INL, the Idaho Nuclear, well, when he worked there, it was the Idaho Nuclear Engineering Laboratory. So you're very close in acronyms to another part of Idaho, a part of Idaho very far away from where you are. So, well, anyway, my library is upgrading with Bywater Solutions to Koha 2411 on Saturday. And when did you upgrade?
We upgraded this last Monday,
Uh-huh.
which was fun because Tuesday is my day where I get to make all the adjustments, for the things that I found. But we also had a special consortium meeting that day, so it was kind of chaotic that day. But yeah, but yeah, we upgraded. We had prepared for several of the things that we found in our previous video.
Right.
We had talked about some of the things that were coming up, particularly with the Bootstrap upgrade. That was significant.
Right.
Not only for the interface. We found a few things that were a little off in the interface, like the customizable menu at the top of Koha. We also found that it was affecting modals, and the developers found what they needed in most of that to make those adjustments, but there were a few things that slipped under the radar. And during our testing, we found that on holds, when you place or when you trigger a hold, that modal came up just fine, but if you scanned that item again, that hold didn't pop, that secondary modal didn't pop up with that information, allowing you to print the slip again or to cancel the hold. And that was rather important. And so that was something that got reported right away and helped those of us being upgrade to a more stable system in production. So those kinds of tests, those of us with test servers that are getting upgraded early, we can find a lot of those things. But sometimes there are things that slip through the cracks that you don't find until you get into production. Like, for example, the holds, the secondary holds modal. We found that. But what we didn't find was that there's a secondary transfer modal that pops up. So if you trigger a transfer, something that's just going back home, that comes up fine. But if you trigger it again to print the slip, or to cancel that transfer, that secondary modal didn't come up. So that was overlooked, and so that is something that's being worked on right now. Hopefully, by the time you upgrade, that'll be fixed.
Tomorrow.
But
Tomorrow for us, you're going to see this after we've upgraded, but after the video's released will be after and after, not before and after. So,
yeah,
this is one of the issues with software testing is, for our testing, it's mostly just me. We upgrade our test server. Bywater upgrades our test server for us, and then we go ahead and I do a bunch of testing on it, and I test our most of our jQuery and most of our customizations. I try and test all of those before an upgrade. But I'm just one person, and the test server
yeah,
gets, really limited use compared to, I have libraries that check out, you know, 500 to 800 things a day that deal with, hundreds of patrons a day, hundreds of things checking in and out a day. And they're going to discover things a lot quicker once everybody's using it. Once I have all 50 libraries using it, and some of the bigger libraries, using it more in an hour than I can ever use, doing testing, all of those things that I miss are going to be uncovered pretty quickly. And I'm sure that's the same thing that happens with you.
yeah,
There's just only so much you can do in testing. It's when you've got everybody using it. It's when you've got a Monday after an upgrade or the day after an upgrade. If it's a normal weekday, you know, you're going to find all of those bugs, all of those weird little things that got missed in testing in an hour
right.
or two.
And you might spend a little bit more time in Koha than I do, because Koha is only a small portion of what I do,
Right.
because I'm the guy that upgrades all the hardware around here. I'm the guy that moves furniture and shelves when when needed. So
Yeah,
I
I've been
work
that
the
guy
reference
too.
desk. So yeah, there's you know as much as I would love to be able to comb through an upgrade and prepare for every little contingency, um, it's it's just not possible with the workload that
Right.
we carry. So, but it's nice. I'm grateful that the things that are slipping through are um, minor enough that we can still keep moving forward. It isn't a game stopper. And I know
Right.
that when
There's
you
no
do run into
blockers.
those things, that the support vendors and the devs take it very seriously and try to correct those as quickly as possible.
So I did come across now. I haven't upgraded, but the Kansas State Library, the State Library of Kansas, is using Koha to manage its e-card system, and they found a piece of jQuery that I had written a couple of years ago wasn't working, and it was entirely because of changes in Bootstrap. And I can actually show you what the issue is if you want to actually look at a something here, or do you want to actually talk about
Sure.
some bugs that are filed? Well, let me find what I have. So this is something we did a long time ago, like maybe in the first season. I've got these buttons that I add to our system. So let's put in a birth date for this patron. I don't need to give him a name or anything else yet, but I've got this. Oh, actually, I took it off of my test system. I can show you where it is on my. I took it off my production system because I was working on it this morning, but I can show you where it is on my test system. So I need a birth date in here. And it's a really simple thing. I've got these password options, and this one will put the date of birth in this format and without the slashes as the password for a patron. And this was broken.
Hmm.
And so and it's because of Bootstrap issues. And I didn't want to go to reports, so I wanted to go to admin. Um, And so that button that gets created, this is the code here that creates the button. And the issue is that the button has to be inside a div, and the div has to have a class of button group. And then the actual button in its classes, it needs to be button, button default,
Mhm.
drop down toggle. That hasn't changed. It's this part right here.
Right.
Data BS toggle equals drop down. This didn't used to have this BS in it. It used to just be data toggle. Yeah, you've said that a lot of the problems that we're encountering with customizations in Koha are BS problems.
Yes,
Bootstrap has a lot of BS in it, apparently. I actually love Bootstrap. I think it's a great framework.
I do too.
And getting all these things updated so we can take advantage of some of the Bootstrap stuff
You know,
is,
I ran into the exact same issues. I had some buttons that weren't working, and it was because of this. I have, next to our addresses and emails and SMS, I have these little pop-down menus
yeah.
so that we can do these predefined messages and restrict the account when we run into these issues with these particular fields, and all of those stopped working, and I had to go through it and clean this up and add that BS toggle.
And then the other one that needs to be changed in this is all of the anchors need to have this class of drop-down item. Those two things needed to be changed, is what I found.
Hmm.
And I was able to fix that pretty quickly. But like I said too, there are some other things that I really like about Bootstrap. One of the things that I've been working on in the last week is, on our production system. I can show you what's on our production system. I've got these tabs. I've been using these for years. And I'm not
Right.
sure if we ever did a video about these or not. I think I did a
Actually, we
presentation.
did.
We did. So all of this requires jQuery in the Internet main user block system preference.
Yeah,
Um,
we had done a video about the tabs, particularly. I think um, we did a video about cover flow and how I tabbed things and how I actually converted um, from JavaScript tabs to Bootstrap,
yeah, and that's
and you showed off your tabs.
well, all of these tabs are created with jQuery in that Internet main user block system preference, and by adding the Bootstrap more Bootstrap to Koha, I can do it without any of that. I don't need all of that jQuery that used to be in Internet main.
Yeah,
All of it's unnecessary because I can just create it using Bootstrap and get the same effect more or less.
it looks more polished too.
Yeah, it looks better. It's less code. This is going to be after we upgrade. This is on my test server. After we upgrade, I've got an Aspen spotlight, that'll appear with our professional development new books on the front
Nice.
page there. So, and it's all done in HTML and Bootstrap without needing any of that extra jQuery to build the framework that makes the tabs work right, because that's all part of Bootstrap.
Yep. Um, Back on your code on your button,
Yeah.
uh, one of the things that I ran into, I was reviewing this and trying to figure out what was breaking it, and figured out that BS dash part in the data, but there was something earlier in that code on the button group, another class called Easy Flow. I could
Oh,
I couldn't find that. I couldn't figure out what that function of that was, because I'm wondering if that's legacy stuff, because I took it out and it made no difference. And I was trying to research it. I couldn't find any information on it anymore.
I think that is a relic from when I had it's a class I created because I had some styling for that button in my CSS.
Okay. Well, I had it in mind, so I must have copied yours. I don't know.
Yeah, you must have. But yeah, it was just a class that I created, and I wrote a CSS rule for what to do if the button has a class, or to for there was in one of my previous versions. There was some styling for anything with a class of EZ FILL. So that's why that's there.
Interesting. So, outside of some buttons, custom buttons that we had inserted, a couple other things that we found Bootstrap affecting. We talked about how the secondary transfer modal is currently not working, and they are working on that. Something else that was affecting transfers, not holds, was the branch name that the transfer is going back to. That disappeared from the slips. It didn't matter if you were using the Hungry Alligators or if you were using what is it called now? The Lazy Owl.
Tipsy owls.
Tipsy owl. Okay.
Right. Whether it was koha syntax or template toolkit, it didn't matter.
Right.
It was still broken.
So the destination wasn't showing up on the slip, which made it difficult. So staff had to pay attention to, when something was transferred and the destination wasn't on there, they had to write it in by hand. So that has been fixed because we reported that right away after our upgrade. So the fix is out there for that and working again. So you shouldn't run into that, hopefully, unless Bywater had specially applied that, and it's not necessarily in the release that you're getting. So just keep an eye out for that one.
I was under the impression that it's been fixed and that we'll be upgrading to that version.
I know it's been fixed. I just don't know if it'll be in the security in the security patch that you get tomorrow or not. So keep an eye out.
We'll see. I'll be here Sunday.
Outside of that, one of the other things, or two other things that I ran into, I had reports that our statuses weren't showing on when it's listing holdings, because I modify the statuses to stand out a little bit differently. They're color coded with what was in Bootstrap called labels. Now are no longer called labels, they're called badges. And so I had to adjust my coding to go to what Bootstrap is now labeling as badges. So they're surrounded with a background color, and you can change the font color. I had to change some sizing on it because everything was coming out much larger with the badges. So that was interesting. So if you're using labels, Bootstrap labels, if you were using Bootstrap labels in previous versions, you're going to need to adjust that and change over to badges to get the same effect. And then the last thing that I've noticed so far is self checks were affected a little in a minor way. The login screen where and I don't know if I adjusted this initially or what. I can't remember the default login screen on the self check, but we have the text box and buttons in line rather than stacked on top of each other. When we upgraded, everything was stacked on top of each other, so I had to go in and readjust things so that they showed up in line again. They removed some syntax in the coding that I just put back in, and it worked as expected. But just little things, a lot of cosmetic things came up. But I think the most significant was affecting the holds modal and the transfer modals. Those are the things that were kind of those need to be fixed ASAP, and um, the community is working on that
Cool.
really quick on that. They've done that with the holds already, but the transfer they're working on. So
Well, I'm looking forward to the upgrades. So
yeah, there's some nice features. Like I may have mentioned in the last video, one of the things that we turned on right away was expiring the passwords that staff, when staff create a patron account, they expire that password right away, so that the patron is forced to put in their own password.
right,
Really nice.
I'm looking forward to that too. How does I guess this isn't a good question for here, but I'm interested in how it works in Aspen.
It works the exact same way. So
Okay.
I think it's a little smoother in Aspen, because Aspen, just prompts you, where I think Koha and the OPAC, it gives you this message that makes you feel like something's broken, and you have to
Oh,
click on a link in order to change it. It's not as user friendly on the OPAC as it is in Aspen. So Aspen does a much better job at responding to that expired password, in my opinion.
that is the feature that's coming in this version that the staff at our libraries is most concerned about and had the most questions about. And I told them, I haven't finished a handout for that specific. Usually I create documents to say this is what it looks like before, this is what it's going to be after, but I haven't done that because we don't have an Aspen test server linked to our Koha test server, so I can't really take any screenshots of what the new version is going to look like in Aspen until after we've upgraded. So
Let me pull up. I can actually demo that.
cool.
Let's see here. Okay, let me go into my test patron. And I will expire. Oh, there it is. Then let's go over to here. Now I got to remember my password. Nope. Yeah, let me change my password real quick here.
All of my test patrons have the exact same password. It's probably
Actually,
not.
what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to edit it in here. So go back in here, because we found in our last video that if you just edit the password, it doesn't retain that expiration. So
Oh,
let's
yeah.
for my rules. That still looks expired. Let's try this. Try this again. Okay. Ugh, why is it not remembering? Just changed it.
Well, when I told everybody this is the short part of the video where we're going to digress a little bit, it's turning out to be a lot longer than I expected.
And it's not saying anything about, this is weird. I'm not in the test server. Let's find out. Let's check this. Changing the password. That's why. Even though it showed the expiration there, if you change the password, it's going to get rid of that. That's funny. Okay. Try this again. Okay. So there's your PIN is expired, enter a new PIN. And I need to update that so it says password. But yeah. So pretty straightforward. If you do this in the OPAC, not as user friendly.
Oh, it actually, yeah.
It gives you, it says error, and this to me is really a big turnoff. It's like, wow, you just made people feel like we broke something,
Right.
and a lot of people tune out. This. It would have been nicer had they removed the word error and just said your password is expired and put the form there to change it. A lot like what Aspen does.
Right.
So,
yeah, and I hate using the word expired. Not because, well,
it's time to change your password.
yeah, a lot of people, I would hate it when I'm not a big fan of the word expired as a euphemism for death to begin with. But I've worked with a lot of people at the library who, when somebody comes in and they scan their card and the account is expired, they will say to the patron, "You're expired." And then the patrons sometimes get offended because it's like, no, I'm not. And so what I would always try to train library staff to say is the computer is asking me to update your information, which is harder to say. But using the word expired, since a lot of people do use it as a euphemism for death.
It's time to update your info.
Yeah, it's time to update your contact information is what I would always say to patrons.
I like that. I like that a
Yeah.
lot better. I think that's better language. But, on the other hand, expired is being used quite often throughout many venues. So it's like,
Right.
It's not foreign. It's just you're particularly offended by it, and so are some of your patrons.
Right. Well, I'm offended by the fact that it's used as a euphemism for death to begin with. If somebody dies, passed away or expired or kicked the bucket, why don't you just say they're dead?
Your password kicked the bucket.
Yeah.
All
well,
right.
Maybe on that note, it's time to kick the bucket on this episode, and
we can do that. All right. So thank you for showing up to another video. I hope that this is helpful. I haven't mentioned this in a while, but please feel free to make comments. We've been getting more comments on our videos, which is really nice. So please feel free to respond in the comments below or reach out to us on Mattermost. We hope to see you again in 2 weeks.
come to a koha-US meeting. We just had one the other day. It's a lot of fun if you haven't ever been there. So we'll see you all later.